Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new and this is your first time here, welcome. For those that don't know me already, I'm a wife and a mom of 3 kids, ages 6, almost 4, and almost 2, and my husband and I recently found out that we're expecting baby number 4 in November. I started this channel recently to document my 4th pregnancy, so I make usually weekly pregnancy updates and talk about other pregnancy related topics. If you're interested in any of that content, please consider subscribing. But now let's get into today's topic. Today I want to talk about my trying to conceive history and kind of all the things that led me to where I am now with 3, soon to be 4 beautiful babies. I want to preface this video by saying that I know the topic of trying to conceive is so emotional for so many people, depending on where you're at in your journey. And I know also, depending on where you are, this video could be triggering. So if you're not in a good place to watch this video, please just skip it. Maybe consider watching one of my other videos and just come back to this one when you're in a better place. I know there's a lot of emotion within the TTC community, and it's hard as somebody that came from a place of knowing that they might have fertility issues and having to do some infertility treatments, to being someone that has successfully had 4 pregnancies. It almost feels like you shouldn't be talking about your pregnancies because you don't want to harm or hurt the feelings of people that are still actively in the heart of the TTC process. However, I'm not sharing this to try to gloat or say, look how easy this was for me, or, you know, to pride myself in the fact that I have 4 healthy babies now. It's mostly just hopefully to be a story of hope to people that are still struggling with similar things that I did. I know everyone's story is different. Everyone's journey will look different, and people will go through different things, and what worked for me might not work for other people that struggle with similar things. But ever since I was even starting to think about having kids, I have found so much inspiration and hope from watching the journeys of other moms here on YouTube. And so I'm just really hoping that I can be that same inspiration to somebody else. So to start my journey, we have to go all the way back to when I was in 5th grade. I was about 10 years old when I started my period for the first time. When I first started my period, throughout the first year or so of having one, my periods were very irregular, very heavy. I got a lot of cramps and different side effects when I was having my period, and for that reason I was quickly put on birth control pills by my doctor as a means to try to control some of those symptoms and the heaviness of my periods, and just make them kind of more regulated. However, my doctor kind of passed off the irregularities and different symptoms I was having as just normal for you know, a kid. Basically, I was 10 years old that was just starting puberty, and the fact that my hormones weren't regulated and leveled out then. And that probably is true to some extent. There was not really any reason at that point, he said, for us to suspect that anything was wrong. It was more just my body trying to regulate itself. After I started the birth control pills, my symptoms got more manageable. My periods themselves were more manageable. However, they were still very irregular. I would go months without having one, and then I might have some light bleeding for a day or two, which I guess I considered a period. Sorry, lots of air quotes in this video. But at that point, it was just passed off as a side effect of the birth control pills, because as we all know, some birth control pills can make you have such light periods that you don't even notice, or just go months without having periods. So once again, it was passed off as normal. Fast forward to 2006, I want to say, when I was 16 years old. At that point in my life, I was a sophomore in high school, and I was having a lot of health problems. I went through a scary period of about 6 weeks of getting a ton of different tests because I was really sick and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Spoiler alert, it ended up being my gallbladder. So once I had that removed, I was fine. However, during that process, I was referred to an OB/GYN that did tons of blood work and tests on me to see if anything was wrong in that arena that was causing all of my symptoms. They didn't find anything that was causing my sickness at the time, obviously, because it was my gallbladder. However, she did tell me that my testosterone levels were high, and in light of that and my irregular periods and all the other symptoms that I was experiencing, that I had PCOS, or polycystic ovary syndrome. Some common symptoms that I definitely had that really fit the picture of PCOS were the high testosterone levels, the irregular periods, and then I have like a ton of body hair, which is unpleasant to talk about, but true, and definitely a hallmark sign of PCOS, as well as like abdominal weight gain, or not so much weight gain, but just I carry like any weight that I do gain in my stomach, which is another common thing with PCOS. So when she diagnosed me, it was something that I had never even heard of before at the time, but after reading up on it, the symptoms definitely fit. I will link down below an article that I found from Mayo Clinic online that just gives an overview of PCOS for anybody that doesn't know about it and needs a starting point. It's just a pretty basic article, but it does a pretty good job of explaining the symptoms and treatments and everything. So that'll be linked below. Once I was diagnosed with this at 16, the gynecologist prescribed metformin for me, which is a medication that's commonly used to kind of control the symptoms of PCOS. So I have been taking that, actually I still take it to this day, ever since I was 16, so for 15 years now, which is crazy. So I was prescribed the metformin. She told me to take that and to stay on birth control pills, and that should manage the PCOS, which looking back, that does help. Those kind of things do help mask the symptoms of it, or manage the symptoms and make the symptoms more tolerable, but they don't really help fix the problem. At the time that the gynecologist was explaining the PCOS to me and my family, she had just kind of explained that a lot of people with PCOS do struggle with infertility issues, although there are treatments for that and everything. It was kind of brushed off as like this could be something that becomes an issue, but you're young, you don't need to worry about it yet. Well, to somebody, even when they're 16, that's always just had their biggest life goal basically to be a mom, that's scary. So since I was 16, I've had this fear in the back of my head and the back of my heart that it would be really difficult for me to get pregnant, or that I maybe wouldn't even be able to have my own biological children because of my PCOS. So that fear kind of started dominating my mind already at age 16. Moving forward from that point, I stayed on the metformin, I stayed on the birth control pills, I continued having irregular periods for years and years and years. And the doctors just kind of said like, well, it's not really a big deal. They weren't concerned, so I just kind of went about my life. I would maybe have like 1 to 2 really light periods a year, and that was about it. In 2009, I met my husband, so I was 19 years old when we met. I think we just knew quickly that we wanted to be together forever. I know that sounds cheesy and a little ridiculous, but I think some people will tell you when you know, and we just knew right from the start. I was always honest and upfront. I mean, probably within the first couple weeks of knowing him, I had explained that I have PCOS, that I might not be able to have kids, and he has always just been so super supportive, and from the start was always just of the opinion that he loved me and he wanted to be with me and wanted to have a family with me. So no matter what, whether I was able to have kids or not, or whether we had to go through other avenues to have a family, that he was supportive and loved me unconditionally regardless, which I just can't be more thankful for. He was always just exactly what I needed when those fears would pop up and I would get stressed out about having kids and if I would be able to have kids. He was always kind of the voice of reason that just said, you know, I love you, we'll get through this, we'll have a family one way or another, no matter what that takes. At the time though, we did decide that we wanted to wait a little while to have kids. I was in nursing school at the time. We were just starting our life together, so we did decide to wait a few years, but I know, you know, any women, it's natural for us to get the baby fever when we find someone that we love and we're with them and we're seeing tons of people around us having babies. That is normal, and people talk about like the ticking clock feeling as you get older. But I will say I had that from the start of our relationship because I just didn't know. It was just the fear of the unknown, not knowing how long it would take us to get pregnant or if we would even be able to get pregnant and what we would need to do for fertility treatments and how much that would cost and what it would all entail. So I had that ticking clock feeling from the very beginning. During this time, I watched a countless number of YouTube videos of women that were trying to conceive or had had successful trying to conceive journeys or were still in the beginning of their trying to conceive journeys. And through that, I will say I got so much hope and inspiration, and also just learned a wealth of information from all those women's experiences that I am so incredibly thankful for. However, I will also say that watching all of that probably did in some ways alleviate my stress about the TTC situation, but also in other ways kind of stimulated that stress because it made me think like, what if this, what if that, maybe I should be doing this, and just made me feel like I needed to be starting to have a family sooner rather than later. But I'm forever thankful for all those videos as well, because they really did just help me to know that I wasn't alone, and to know that there were options, and to know that one way or another I would be able to have a family. In the fall of 2012, I switched to a new gynecologist that kind of specializes in infertility, I guess you would say. He had like some extra training in infertility, but he was not an RE, which is a reproductive endocrinologist. He was just a gynecologist. But I switched to him and kind of told him about my concerns. He did blood work. For those of you that are interested, here are the numbers. I know they won't mean much to a lot of people, and honestly, I don't even know what they all mean, but I always liked when women included numbers and stuff in their videos to compare. So here were my numbers. My LH was 16.3, FSH 4.8, prolactin was 7, and my AMH was 12.48. AMH is, I want to say, anti-Mullerian hormone. I probably butchered the name of that, I'm sorry. And it's something that is used by different gynecologists or REs to kind of predict your egg quality. It's a hormone that is released by developing eggs on your ovaries, if I understand correctly. So the higher the number for AMH, the better prognosis you have in terms of egg quality. For an older woman, maybe in their 30s, say, an AMH of 12 would be considered decent or even good. But he said, for me, in light of the fact that I was only 22, it was a little bit concerning that my AMH was that low. It was kind of like right on the border of normal and low, he said. However, he said he would have liked it, obviously, to be higher. With that being said, in light of my low AMH, or lowish AMH, I should say, and the fact that I had PCOS and we knew that, he pretty much told me that he thought the sooner that I started trying, the better. Obviously, he said don't do anything irresponsible or try when you're not ready, but the sooner you're ready and the sooner you start trying, the better, because he was concerned that over time my egg quality would diminish more and more to a point where it was virtually impossible for me to get pregnant on my own. That was definitely a lot to digest. I always knew in the back of my mind that in light of my PCOS, the sooner that we tried, the better. But to have a doctor actually tell you that and really lay it out for you, it kind of hits a little bit harder. At the time, my husband and I were engaged. We got married in the summer of 2013. So we had kind of planned to start trying soon after we got married. But that discussion with my gynecologist really kind of put us into gear of okay, we need to make a decision of what we're going to do and when we're going to start trying, so that we have the best chances. So a couple months later, in January of 2013, I stopped taking my birth control pills. At this point, we just kind of decided I would stop taking my birth control pills to let my body balance out, because I know it can take a little while after coming off of birth control pills for so long for your body to kind of figure itself out again. So I stopped taking those in January, and we decided we wouldn't try, but we wouldn't prevent pregnancy. So up until we got married in July of that year, that was our plan. When I first came off of birth control pills, I had one regular period, which I was actually encouraged by and thought that it was a good sign. But then after that, everything shut down and I didn't have a single other period for months after that. We got married in July of 2013, like I said, and then in October, I went back to the gynecologist for my annual exam, and I told him, listen, I've been off birth control pills for 10 months now. I've had one period immediately after I got off of them and nothing since. We haven't been preventing pregnancy. We haven't gotten pregnant. What should I do? And he thankfully was just immediately supportive of helping. I know there's a lot of doctors that say oh, you have to try for at least a year or this or that, but he said, I'm not going to tell you that. We already know that you have PCOS and that you're likely to have issues. And he said the fact that you're not even having a period means you're probably not ovulating, which means you don't have any hope of conceiving on your own, which was another hard blow. I knew that in the back of my head, but once again, just being told that is scary. In light of how long this video is getting, I think I'm going to break it up into a two-parter. I'm afraid that it's just going to get so long that it'll be overwhelming for people and that it'll be hard to upload. So I'm going to end part one here, and I will talk in the next part about how he decided to treat our infertility and how we found success. If you're interested in watching part two, please subscribe and turn your notifications on so that you're notified when I upload part two. Once again, thank you so much for watching. Please comment down below and let me know what your journey was like, how it was similar or how it was different, or where you're at currently in your trying to conceive journey. I love hearing everybody's stories and interacting with you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video, and stay tuned for part two.